Throughout history, many tank designs have proved what works and what doesn't. Vehicles like the M4 Sherman and the T-34 proved the universal tank concept was a viable concept, which eventually culminated in the main battle tanks we see today. Other designs, like the multi-turreted T-35 and Italian L-33 tankette, showed how some designs were pretty bad and in some cases unusable. Yeah, the vehicle we are discussing today doesn't really fall into these categories. Enter the Tiger II, otherwise known as the King Tiger or Königstiger if you're German. This vehicle is the pinnacle of superior German engineering. All jokes aside though, this tank has gotta be my favourite tank of all time. That doesn't make it perfect, no doubt it is not a perfect vehicle. It does so much right, yet at the same time it does so much wrong. It doesn't make it any less interesting to me though. So, let's take a look at this vehicle and figure out what it did wrong and what it did right. But first, a little lore update about this big cat. In 1943, the Tiger I had been roaming the battlefield for approximately 1 year now. In that time frame, it had proved itself as an effective killing machine, wiping out most of its opponents with its 8.8cm cannon. However, by now, the Allied forces were starting to figure out how to effectively kill it. This was not good, so it was back to the drawing board. This next tank would be even better than the Tiger I, and so it was up to Henschel and Son / Krupp to come up with a new vehicle. They decided, why don't we create an over-engineered monster that's incredibly expensive and resource-intensive to build? And it's got 185mm of armour. The German army loved it. And so, the Tiger II was put into production. However, due to it being a brand new design, the Tiger II would eventually be put into service in 1944 when Germany was on the defensive. Approximately 492 Tiger IIs were produced, which may seem like a lot, but compared to the 49,234 Shermans built, it really isn't that much. Erika. Like I said in the introduction, the Tiger II did quite a lot right. So, let's go over some of those, shall we? Number 1. Armament. When looking at the Tiger II's armament, it may seem a bit underwhelming at first. Oh wow, it looks like this is using the same gun that the Tiger I used. Well, kinda. There is a reason why the Tiger I is known for having such a fearsome bite, and it's all down to the 8.8cm KWK-36 cannon. On the Tiger II, this gun was upgraded to the 8.8cm KWK-43 cannon. This gun was incredibly punchy, with a penetration value of 274mm at 100 meters using PZGR 40-43. Number 2. Armor. The Tiger II is way better than its older cousin when it comes to armor. Clocking in at 185mm thick on the front, with its lowest thickness being 25mm, the Tiger II was basically a moving fortress. Not only that, but its armor was sloped, meaning that a shot fired, say, at its frontal plate, which was sloped at an angle of 50 degrees, would bounce right off. The King Tiger's armour, combined with its powerful cannon, made it a formidable force on the battlefield. Now, there are a lot more positives I could go through, but for the sake of time, I gotta talk about the parts that kinda suck. Oh boy. The Tiger II had its good side, and when it worked on the battlefield, it was a terrifying opponent to fight. But that's the key part. It was formidable when it actually bloody worked. Number 1. Reliability issues, weight, and the speed. Ah yes, the typical problem that late war German tanks faced. They couldn't go 5 minutes without something breaking. I'm over-exaggerating here, but the Tiger II did suffer from numerous mechanical problems. For example, the gaskets and seals were prone to leaking in the early models. Also, this isn't called a heavy tank for a reason. The thing was heavier than your clocking in at a whopping 68.5 tons. We were 0.5 tons off, lads. It was really a heavy boy, which definitely made it as slow as a slug compared to other tanks. Its maximum speed was 38 kilometers per hour. This really wasn't an ideal speed, as by now, the German tanks were being equipped with the long barrel 76mm guns, and so, well, they were faster. They could move at a top speed of 48 kilometers per hour, so a Tiger II was really vulnerable to flanking attacks. Number 2, the cost. Remember when I said the Tiger II was an expensive vehicle? I wasn't joking. In 1944, a single Tiger II costed an astonishing 321,500 Reichsmarks. That was $160,750 back then. Compare that to the Sherman, which costed $44,556. Still a lot, but not as much. Every time a Tiger II was constructed, you could audibly hear the German economy crying in pain. Talk about an expensive vehicle. I might say that the Tiger II had terrible reliability issues and a less than ideal speed and weight. But that doesn't mean it still isn't my favourite tank. I am willing to look past the cool factor of the vehicle, however. Yes, it was an expensive tank that was far too unreliable for its price point. But for the time, it had some of the best armour around, and its gun was one of the punchiest at the time as well. It is, by far, not the best tank of World War II. Not by a long shot. And yet, it's my favourite, due to how interesting and awesome the vehicle is to me.